It is my honor to host such a great friend, neighbor, and ally at the White House. A very special place.
Donald Trump is doubling down on his jokes about Canada becoming the 51st state.
He is really taking some jabs at Canadians. He's talking about subsidies to Canada.
Trump, meanwhile, taunting Trudeau on social media.
Oh, I think this was very on purpose.
The US and Canada, two neighbors who usually get along pretty well, have been hitting some bumps in the road lately. From tariffs to border security, there's a lot going on. Let's break it all down and see what it means for both countries. Okay, let's start with tariffs. So, Trump's out here saying he's going to slap a 25% tariff on everything Canada sends over to the US. But why? According to him, it's to fix trade problems and tighten up border security. But yeah, Canada's not exactly loving this idea. Trudeau didn't just sit back, though. He came right back at it, saying these tariffs wouldn't just hurt Canada, they'd hurt the US too.
Trudeau said people in America were, quote, beginning to wake up. Tariffs on everything from Canada would make life a lot more expensive.
Prices would shoot up for American shoppers, and Canadian businesses would take a serious hit. And he threw in a reminder that Canada's not afraid to fight back, just like they did last time. Let's not forget how intertwined these two economies are.
You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners.
Canada is one of America's biggest trading partners, sending over cars, machinery, and even fresh produce. A 25% tariff isn't just a political move. It's one that affects everyday lives.
What exactly is he trying to achieve with his biggest trading partner?
Imagine paying extra for the same groceries or household items you buy today. That's the kind of ripple effect we're talking about. Beyond that, Canadian lumber and steel are crucial for industries in the US, from construction to automotive manufacturing. These tariffs could slow down projects and raise costs for businesses across America. It's a domino effect that could hurt both economies. And don't forget dairy, a sector that's been at the center of US-Canada trade tensions for years. The US has long criticized Canada's supply management system, claiming it creates an uneven playing field. With these tariffs, American dairy farmers might see short-term gains, but consumers on both sides could end up paying the price. Then there's the border.
We got a lot of issues on the northern border. That our borders have become a biggest national security vulnerability we've seen since 9/11.
The US has been worried about things like illegal crossings and drug trafficking, so Canada's stepping up with a new plan. They're talking about a joint team with the US to tackle crime and investing over $1 billion to beef up security. This isn't just about stopping illegal stuff. Canada's trying to show the US they're serious about being a good neighbor. It's like saying, hey, we've got this under control, so they can avoid more pressure like those tariffs or other restrictions. But it's not all smooth sailing. These kinds of efforts require cooperation at multiple levels: local, national, and even international. Any breakdown in communication could lead to problems, whether it's delays at border checkpoints or disagreements over who's footing the bill for these new initiatives. For border towns that thrive on cross-border trade, increased security measures could also mean longer wait times and stricter checks, making it harder for businesses and travelers to move freely. This adds another layer of complexity to the ongoing tensions. It's also worth noting how these measures impact border communities. In places like Detroit, Windsor, or Blaine, Surrey, the daily lives of thousands depend on smooth crossings. Industries like logistics and manufacturing, which rely on just-in-time delivery, could face costly delays. Small businesses that serve cross-border commuters, like local diners and gas stations, might see fewer customers. Tighter security could strain local economies that rely heavily on cross-border commerce. Meanwhile, back in Canada, things are getting a little messy.
So we're still looking at the right ways to respond.
But on Monday, his finance minister handed in her resignation. She said the prime minister asked her to step down.
And now everyone's trying to figure out what this means for the government. Freeland was a key player in Canada's economic policies, and its negotiations with the US, her departure leaves a gap that Trudeau's government will need to fill quickly.
This is a serious blow to Trudeau's bid to stay in power.
It also raises questions about whether there are deeper divisions within Canada's leadership. Are they all on the same page about how to deal with the US? That's something to watch. Political stability is crucial right now. With the US pushing hard on multiple fronts, Canada needs a united front to handle these challenges. Any sign of internal conflict could weaken their position in negotiations, and for ordinary Canadians, Freeland's resignation adds uncertainty. With inflation and economic pressures already a concern, the public is watching closely to see if the government can manage these issues effectively. What's also interesting is the timing. Freeland's exit comes at a time when Canada is trying to showcase its resilience on the world stage. Whether this is a political reshuffle or a deeper fracture remains to be seen, but it's definitely adding fuel to an already heated situation. And what about the people of Canada? Well, most of them aren't too thrilled with Trump's latest comments. He even joked about Canada becoming the 51st US state. That didn't sit well with Canadians, who are pretty proud of their independence. For most Canadians, the idea of joining the US is like a hard no.
We have a heroic history, a great people, and a very proud future ahead of us.
It's not just politics, it's who they are. Universal health care, stricter gun laws, multiculturalism. That's what Canada's all about. Giving that up, yeah, not happening. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford even suggested cutting off energy exports to the US if things get worse. That's a big deal considering how much the US relies on Canadian oil and electricity. It's a bold move, but it shows how seriously Canada takes its role as an independent player on the global stage. Polls show that the majority of Canadians value their autonomy and are not keen on closer political integration with the US. Even in provinces like Alberta, which have strong economic ties to America, the idea of statehood is largely dismissed as implausible. Speaking of energy, it's a key part of the US-Canada relationship. Alberta sends millions of barrels of oil to the US every day, and Quebec's hydroelectric power keeps the lights on in American homes. But here's something a lot of people don't know. It's not just one way. The US also sends electricity back to Canada when they need it. This energy trade is a two-way street, and both countries rely on each other to keep things running smoothly. For example, during the Texas power grid crisis in 2021, electricity imports from Canada helped stabilize parts of the US grid. Likewise, during peak winter demands, Canada has leaned on US energy exports to keep their systems steady. And there's more at stake here than just keeping the lights on. Both countries have ambitious climate change goals. Cutting off energy trade could slow down progress on reducing emissions, which is something neither side wants. But if tensions between the US and Canada keep rising, it could disrupt this balance. Higher prices, supply issues, and a lot of unhappy businesses and consumers could be the result. It's a lose-lose situation, and both sides know it. Energy isn't just about money, it's about security and trust. The more these ties are tested, the harder it gets to maintain stability on both sides of the border. So what's the takeaway here? The US and Canada are going through a rough patch, but their relationship is too important to fall apart. They trade billions of dollars worth of goods, share energy, and have each other's backs on major global issues. But the next few months are going to be critical. Will they find ways to work through these challenges, or are we heading for more drama? Either way, this is a relationship worth watching closely. Both nations have a lot to gain from keeping things on track. Whether it's through diplomacy, compromise, or simply sitting down and talking things out, there's a lot riding on how they handle these issues. At the end of the day, the US and Canada have a lot more in common than what divides them. They've been through tough times before, and they've always found a way to work things out. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, and they'll find a way to keep things running smoothly. What do you think? Will the US and Canada work it out, or are we heading for more drama? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on global events.